Harry's been watching his investment portfolio get absolutely demolished this year, down 12% while the market's barely breaking even. But there's one sector that's been quietly delivering 600% gains, and most investors have no idea it even exists. Because while everyone's obsessing over which AI stock to buy next, they're completely missing the infrastructure crisis that's about to reshape the entire energy market. And I'm not talking about chips or software. I'm talking about the massive amounts of electricity that artificial intelligence consumes. Here's what Wall Street doesn't want you to know. Training a single large language model uses more electricity than 1,000 American homes consume in an entire year. ChatGPT alone burns through 564 megawatt-hours daily. That's enough power to run 50,000 homes around the clock. And we're not building one AI model. We're building thousands. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, they're all racing to build bigger data centers, more powerful AI systems, more compute capacity. By 2030, data centers will consume 8% of all US electricity. This creates a problem that wind and solar simply cannot solve. Data centers need 24/7 baseload power. They can't wait for the wind to blow or the sun to shine. When you're running millions of GPU cores processing AI workloads, the power cannot stop. Ever. Why nuclear is the only solution. Which brings us to nuclear energy. The only carbon-free technology that delivers consistent, massive amounts of electricity around the clock, rain or shine, winter or summer. But here's where it gets really interesting for your wealth-building strategy. The nuclear industry is experiencing something we haven't seen since the 1970s. Genuine excitement from institutional investors, government backing, and trillion-dollar tech companies signing 20-year power purchase agreements. 4 companies are positioned to capture the majority of this opportunity. I'm going to show you exactly which ones, their specific upside catalysts, and most importantly, which one offers the best risk-adjusted returns for your investment strategy. Stock number 1. OKLA, the Silicon Valley moonshot. OKLA represents what happens when Silicon Valley venture capital meets nuclear physics. Founded in 2013 by Jacob DeWitt and Caroline Cochran, this company has already delivered mind-blowing returns. 600% gains in just 18 months since going public through a SPAC merger. But here's what most investors completely miss about Okla's investment research story. They're not building traditional gigawatt nuclear plants that take 15 years and $20 billion to construct. Oklo designs something called microreactors, small, modular units that can be factory-built and deployed anywhere you need clean electricity. Their Aurora powerhouse generates 15 to 50 megawatts of electrical power using a compact fast neutron reactor. For context, that's enough electricity to power 15,000 homes or a medium-sized data center. The reactor uses liquid metal cooling and can operate for 10+ years without refueling. The upside catalyst that has Wall Street paying attention, Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI behind ChatGPT, was Okla's chairman until April 2025. This wasn't some random investment. The guy who understands AI power requirements better than anyone on Earth chose to back Okla's technology specifically. But here's what gets me really excited about the financial planning opportunity. Oklo just received critical approvals from the Department of Energy for site use at Idaho National Laboratory. They're targeting commercial operations by 2027, just 3 years away. And they've already secured letters of intent for 1,350 megawatts of capacity. That includes partnerships with Diamondback Energy for powering oil operations in the Permian Basin and Wyoming Hyperscale for data center electricity. Plus a memorandum of understanding with Korea, hydro and nuclear power for international deployment. The numbers that matter for your money management: market cap of $7.9 billion with zero debt. They've got $90 million cash on hand to fund operations through 2027. No revenue yet, but that completely changes when their first reactor comes online. Current share price around $53, but analyst price targets average $58.50, with some as high as $75. That's 40% upside before considering what happens when they actually start generating electricity revenue. However, and this is absolutely critical for asset allocation, Oklo is pure speculation right now. You're betting on flawless execution in an industry known for cost overruns and regulatory delays. One setback with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission or construction delays tanks this stock 40% overnight. This belongs in the high-risk, high-reward portion of growth portfolios only. Money you can afford to lose completely. Stock number 2, NuScale Power. The technology leader. NuScale Power achieved something no other company has managed: actual regulatory approval from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for small modular reactor technology. Their 77-megawatt power modules are certified and ready for commercial deployment. Founded in 2007 and spun out of Oregon State University Research, NuScale went public through a SPAC merger in May 2022. Market cap now sits at $10.2 billion. Here's the investment research that most people miss. NuScale isn't just approved on paper, they're already manufacturing. Their strategic partner Doosan has 12 reactor modules in production in South Korea right now. The first commercial plant could be operational by 2030. The Microsoft and Meta factor drives the passive income stream's potential. Both companies are actively exploring nuclear-powered data centers. NuScale's modular design allows them to scale power capacity exactly as AI compute demands grow. Perfect setup for 20-year power purchase agreements that generate predictable cash flows. Plus, the government backing. Over $400 million in Department of Energy funding since 2014. The Biden administration designated $1.4 billion for NuScale's carbon-free power project in Idaho. This isn't venture capital gambling. This is strategic national infrastructure investment. But here's the execution risk that could crush your financial goals. NuScale burned through $137 million last year while generating just $37 million in revenue from engineering services. They're funded through 2027, but any significant project delays squeeze their runway. Currently trading at 9.2 times book value based purely on future potential. Beta of 2.04 means this stock moves twice as violently as the overall market. When nuclear sentiment turns negative, NuScale gets hit first and hardest. Share price around $35 with analyst targets averaging $32. The market's already pricing in considerable execution risk. Stock number 3. Cameco, the uranium supply king. While everyone focuses on sexy reactor technologies, Cameco controls something far more valuable: the uranium supply chain that every nuclear renaissance depends on. Based in Saskatchewan, Canada, Cameco is the world's second-largest uranium producer. They operate Tier 1 mines like McArthur River and Cigar Lake, some of the highest-grade uranium deposits on the planet. Why every nuclear company needs Cameco? Here's the beautiful part of this investment strategy. Every nuclear renaissance needs Cameco. Oklo needs uranium fuel. NuScale needs uranium fuel. Even if half these startup reactor companies fail, demand for nuclear fuel is exploding regardless. The numbers driving financial independence potential. Cameco produced 23.4 million pounds of uranium in 2024 at an average realized price of $58.34 per pound. But here's the kicker. New long-term uranium contracts are being signed at $80+ per pound. That pricing power flows directly to profit margins. Plus, the Westinghouse acquisition changes everything. In late 2022, Cameco acquired 84% of Westinghouse Electric Company. Westinghouse services approximately 50% of the global nuclear reactor fleet. That's recurring revenue and dividend growth potential as more reactors come online worldwide. The geopolitical advantage. With Russian uranium potentially restricted due to sanctions, Cameco becomes one of the few Western suppliers capable of meeting global demand. Supply constraints drive uranium prices higher, which benefits every mine they operate. Current valuation, $31.6 billion market cap, trading at 184 times earnings. Expensive by traditional metrics, but justified by 561% 5-year returns and accelerating cash flow growth. Share price around $71 with analyst targets averaging $80.65. That's 15% upside before considering what happens if uranium prices spike above $100 per pound. The risk factor for tax-advantaged accounts. Geopolitical exposure through their 40% stake in Kazakhstan's Inkai joint venture. Any supply disruption there actually benefits Cameco's Canadian operations by reducing global uranium supply. Stock number 4. Constellation, the established giant. America's largest nuclear fleet. Constellation Energy operates the largest nuclear fleet in America. 23 reactors across 13 sites, generating enough clean electricity to power 16 million homes. But here's what makes them special for retirement savings and compound interest strategies. They're restarting 3 Mile Island Unit 1. Microsoft signed a 20-year power purchase agreement worth over $1 billion annually for 835 megawatts of carbon-free electricity to power their AI data centers. That's guaranteed revenue through 2047. Market cap of $99.75 billion makes this the safest nuclear play for conservative investment portfolios. Real revenue of $23.57 billion. Real profits of $3.75 billion. Real dividends with 73% three-year dividend growth. The upside catalyst beyond 3 Mile Island. Constellation is exploring small modular reactor deployment at existing nuclear sites. Their infrastructure, grid connections, and regulatory relationships provide massive advantages over startups. Plus, the $4.5 billion Calpine acquisition adds 26,000 megawatts of natural gas generation capacity. This creates a diversified investment portfolio of nuclear, gas, wind, and solar within a single stock. The Clean Energy Credit Goldmine. The Inflation Reduction Act provides up to $15 per megawatt hour in production tax credits for nuclear plants through 2032. With 175 terawatt hours of annual nuclear generation, that's potentially $2.6 billion in annual subsidies. Current share price around $318 with analyst targets averaging $311. The stock has already run up significantly, but the 3 Mile Island restart alone justifies current valuations. But here's the valuation concern for financial advisors. Trading at 33 times earnings and 7.6 times book value. Rich multiples for a utility, even considering the clean energy premium. The nuclear stock. Risks you must understand. Why nuclear stocks are different. These aren't normal utility stocks that trade on dividend yields and earnings stability. Nuclear stocks trade on sentiment, government policy, and public perception of safety. One negative headline about reactor incidents, regulatory delays, or cost overruns crashes the entire sector 20% in a single day. The psychological scars from Chernobyl and Fukushima still influence investor behavior. But here's the timing element crucial for your investment research. We're in year 3 of a genuine nuclear renaissance. The Inflation Reduction Act provides massive subsidies through 2032. Data center electricity demand is projected to triple by 2030. Natural gas faces environmental restrictions. Wind and solar cannot provide 24/7 baseload power. Nuclear is literally the only technology that scales to meet AI infrastructure demands. My nuclear stock recommendations. For conservative investors, start with Constellation. If you're building long-term financial goals positions, start with Constellation Energy. Established cash flows, dividend safety, real assets generating electricity today. Allocate 3 to 5% of growth-oriented portfolios. For income and inflation protection, choose Cameco. For passive income streams and inflation protection, Cameco offers the best risk-adjusted returns. Rising uranium prices benefit every mine they operate. Plus, Westinghouse provides recurring service revenue regardless of new reactor construction. For aggressive growth, consider Oklo carefully. Aggressive growth money belongs in Oklo, but size your position carefully. This could be a 10-bagger if execution succeeds and they scale production. It could also be a 90% loss if regulatory approval fails or competition emerges. Skip NuScale. Unless you're an expert. Skip NuScale unless you're an expert in nuclear technology and project finance. Too much execution risk for most investment strategies. The technology is proven, but commercial viability remains unproven. The smart nuclear portfolio strategy. Diversified nuclear allocation. The portfolio construction approach for financial independence. Split nuclear exposure between established operators like Constellation, 60%, and supply chain players like Cameco, 30%. Reserve just 10% for speculation on companies like Oklo. Risk management is critical. The bottom line for your financial planning. The nuclear renaissance is real. AI power demands, government subsidies, climate policies, and energy security concerns all align perfectly. But picking individual nuclear stocks requires understanding each company's specific risks, catalysts, and execution capabilities. For most investors focused on financial, independence, and retirement savings, a diversified approach works best. Get exposure to the theme without betting everything on unproven technologies or regulatory approval processes. The nuclear opportunity is massive. Make sure your investment portfolio is positioned to benefit from the cleanest, most reliable energy source powering the AI revolution. The question isn't whether nuclear energy will power the future, it's whether you'll profit from the transition. These 4 stocks give you different ways to play the nuclear renaissance, from conservative dividend growth to aggressive speculation. Choose your allocation based on your risk tolerance, but don't ignore this sector completely. The AI revolution demands clean, reliable power, and nuclear is the only technology that delivers at scale.